मेहरबान कदरदान साहिबान, गुलाब की पेशकश। बोल बेबी बोल।
A holiday indeed. Zip. Okay. A holiday indeed. It all began one sunny morning. A morning like any other. It was time for work, but I was lazy that day. After all, we've had quite a summer. So I stayed in bed till about half noon and ate to my heart's content and binged a show I had never before been able to comprehend. I was free of stress or whatever else that plagued my daily existence. No phone calls, no mails, no marketing, no sales, no deadlines, no counting subscriptions. This is my time, I said, lying in bed, daydreaming of dreams coming true. And without my boss breathing down my neck, I could finally take a poo. I read a book for once, hadn't done so in months, even stared out the window a while. And whatever the view, a street dog or two, even a dump truck could make me smile. Unshaved, unbathed, and truly unashamed, a Neanderthal by corporate standards. This is a great idea, I thought to myself, while I pranced around in my unders. After a blissful nap, I woke up around 4 and contemplated an evening outing. And while I was wondering about where to go, I heard my doorbell ringing. It was my neighbor, a friend, the girl from next door, whose blue eyes would shine and shimmer. She wanted some sugar. I gave some to her and promptly asked her to dinner. She agreed at first, and then she stopped herself and said, "I've got to check my schedule." "That's fair," I replied. "Take some time to decide," trying not to sound like a fool. She finally agreed after a torturous minute. It was official. I had a date. I was to be the perfect gentleman and take her home when it gets late. Simple. Then it dawned on me, when I looked at my clothes, that I'd never really done this before. I mean, a date with a woman, dinner and drinks. What if she wanted more? So I set out with purpose for that perfect outfit with which I was to woo the dame. And I found my ensemble, half lord, half scoundrel, because style was the name of the game. Turns out I was wrong, because she just wore jeans. And a top that my aunt would not question. So began that night, that fateful night that taught me a small, important lesson. At first it was simple. Questions and answers. What's your name? What do you do? I work in advertising. It's mundane. It's boring. Please tell me more about you. I'm an actor, freelancer, an artist, a dancer. I like to take trips to the hills. For an hour she spoke, and all I could think of was, how the hell did she pay the bills? When it was time for the check, she conveniently left to powder her nose in the loo. I waited 10 minutes and then eventually paid. What else was I supposed to do? Without addressing the hole in my pocket, she returned and she'd called for a cab. Now, I was hoping she'd pay for that at least, but that wasn't the idea she had. We're going to a friend's. He has more booze. Come with me and be my date. I instantly forgot that I had spent quite a lot and that the hour was also quite late. We arrived at his house. Turns out it was a party. One I was overdressed for. Because half the people were in sweatpants and shorts, and everyone sat on the floor. We're actors, we're artists. We create, we destroy. We are filled with passion to the brim. Show me your work. Show me your work. What's your routine like? Oh, we audition and we go to the gym. As the night progressed, sobriety was less a state than it was a dream. I had to pee now, so I hurried and then struck my head on a beam. I staggered about, trying to find the door to that chamber of sweet release. When I finally did, I looked at the floor and in slow-mo I fell to my knees. The world was spinning, my head was throbbing. I reached around for a faucet, and while I was trying to freshen my face, somebody reached for my wallet. I turned around, it was her. My date for the evening, in her hand a grand or two. "It's only fair," she said. "We're all quite broke, and somebody's got to pay for the food." I ignored her and turned and went about my business and finally fulfilled the deed. I peed for a while and finally felt so relieved, and I thought, a bed is all I need. I made my way to the hall where they were dancing to all the songs I grew up to hate. And in the crowd was the man of the house, questionably close to my date. Hands on hips is not platonic. Okay? You're fooling yourself. I'm done, I thought, and walked up to her, stretched my hand out without a sound. She gave me my wallet and my keys for some reason. And finally, I was homeward bound. I get to the road and check my pockets. These freeloaders had sucked me dry. I gathered myself and looked for a cab, trying to focus and trying not to cry. I know how you feel, baby. I know. By the time I got home, it was already 4. I had work in a couple of hours. I was brain damaged maybe, had a concussion for sure, and desperately in need of a shower. But before I got to it, okay, we're done with that. Relax. But before I got to it, I looked at my home, and for a second I felt some pride. My ceiling was high, my house was well furnished and bright, and I could not help but smile. I may not have passion. I may not have passion, but I do have a job. And money to save and spare. And as much as I'm told that my life is boring, you know what? I'm comfortable. I simply don't care. I climbed into bed, all warm and fresh, and I was glad I was doing so alone, because now was not the time for me to entertain some woman I don't know. In that moment, I thought, I love my job. I'm secure, I'm well fed and sorted. A few hours with those drama queens, and I was glad that my holiday had ended. In no time at all, I was up for work. It was a bright and hungover day. There was a chance I might not think all right, but nothing will stop me today. On my way out, I saw her return. My date, on her walk of shame. "Morning, Vishal," she said as she passed. The woman had forgotten my name. Thank you.